Good morning. It is Friday, September 4th at about 20 minutes, no, a quarter to 10, a quarter minutes to 10. Friday morning. My name is Larry Cedar. I'm back with you for another session on scanning. You know, I changed the title of these live stream sessions from Larry Cedar Teaches Scanning to Larry Cedar Practices Scanning, because that's what I'm doing. I'm practicing. I'm practicing in public. I'm practicing with anyone who's interested in participating and joining me in what is really a sort of experiment, an ongoing experiment, which has been going on for several years. In my case, I discovered several years ago that the answer to the question, what do I do, was not necessarily to form an idea or form a solution or read a book or recite a mantra. The solution was to do nothing to many of my problems. Expanding is what we call it, as opposed to contracting. And I said, well, that seems interesting. What if that's true? What if the solution, whenever I'm having some sort of challenging situation, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever, what if the solution was not to do something, but to undo, to not do, to expand, as a primary step, as a way of approaching a problem? If our initial instinctive solution is, what do I do? What do I think? What do I say? Where do I go? What if the solution in any situation, whatever mental challenge you might have, physical, emotional, social, was to first, before you did anything, do nothing. Go to a place of emptiness and silence and stillness. Expansion, relaxation, calm. What if that was always the first step? What if I could make that my instinct? And I said, well, if I can train myself in any situation, whatever challenge I might face, to instinctively go to nothingness first, expansion, relaxation, perhaps I will be able to more readily solve these challenges and problems which face me. And it's been a difficult practice, and I've been doing this for years, and I call it an experiment because I may find out at some point that this is wrong, this doesn't work, that taking a breath, that taking a moment of silence and stillness is not the solution. Maybe the solution is to jump right on things. But I got to be honest with you, experience has taught me that it's been very helpful and very useful in my life to learn to instinctively relax, expand, calm myself first under all circumstances. And I call that scanning. Sqanning, which is, as I define it, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. So again, it's sort of training myself to not react instinctively as I normally would to any challenge by contracting. And by contracting, I mean forming an idea, forming a thought, tensing up, closing off, making a decision. Sometimes in a panic, sometimes quickly. To train myself to not react to any challenge in that way, but rather to relax, expand, release muscular tension, clear my mind, become still, and see if that helps me solve the problem. And what I found is it does. The problem doesn't change, the challenge doesn't change, the solutions still must be found, but as a preliminary step to any bad feeling, to any bad feelings, to first calm yourself, still yourself, relax yourself, move your consciousness from a state of contraction into a state of expansion as a preliminary first step, as an instinctive first step. To train yourself to do that is very, very helpful. To the point where I've come to believe that expansion through this process of scanning is always the best choice. Always the best choice. No matter what you're hearing your mind say, no matter what you're feeling your body do, the best choice is always to first expand, calm yourself, open yourself up to possibilities. So that's what this is. It's an experiment. It's an ongoing, continuing experiment. I continue to practice this technique to get better at it, which I've mentioned. If I was going to become a classical pianist, I would practice every day. So I practice this scanning process every day in an attempt to get better and better and better at it. And I face challenges every day. This has been a very challenging time, these pandemic times. And I would say it gets more of a psychological challenge as we go. Initially, it was just a sort of a social challenge, an economic challenge, and those are still there. But on a psychological basis, I think this has been an incredibly challenging situation. We find ourselves, I find myself, thinking on an existential level, what's it all about? What am I? What is my career? What is going on? And it's kind of becomes more and more challenging to keep a stable perspective. And I've found that scanning expansion helps. Stillness, quiet, calm, expansion, relaxation helps consistently, no matter what the challenge. So let's practice scanning. Again, it's the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. I'm going to continue to practice this, I think, maybe for the rest of my life. And I'm going to hopefully get better and better at it. And I will share this technique with you if you're interested, and see if it does something for you. It boils down our state of consciousness to a very simple level. We are either contracting or expanding. At any given moment, we are either more contracted or expanded. And I squeeze the hands together, and join me if you want, to feel, to have a visceral sensation of what it feels like to contract or expand. Everything can be looked at through that perspective. And again, I always like to cite the source of this idea, a man named Thaddeus Golas, Golas, who wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, which you can get easily anywhere, Amazon, where we get everything. And he just said, basically, you can look at life through that perspective. You're either contracting or expanding. And depending on how contracted or expanded you are, will determine your state of consciousness. And generally speaking, when we're overly contracted, we feel bad. When we're expanded, we feel open, accessible, aware, willing, permeable. It's a better place to be, expanded. So that's what I'm always trying to do, move myself into a state of expansion. We instinctively move towards contraction. Contraction is the bringing together of thoughts, ideas, words, concepts, materials to solve problems, to advance our agendas, to achieve goals. We contract, we form things, we build things, we say things, we relate to people, we bring relationships together, we destroy things, we take action. That's contraction. That's our go-to mode of operation. So we're really good at that. What we've forgotten how to do is the opposite, expand, which allows us to achieve balance, perspective. Scanning achieves expansion through a muscular process. We eliminate the mind. We're not thinking any theories. We have no mantras to recite. There's no religious tomes to study. There's no philosophy to apply. There's no guru to listen to. There's nothing going on except your body, and whether it is physically contracted or physically expanded. That's all we're focusing on. And again, this is an experiment which I continue to participate in, and I have found it to be consistently true that when you relax your muscles, when you expand physically, because muscles can only contract or release, so when you relax the muscles and expand, your consciousness follows. Because your mind is a muscle of sorts, holding on to thoughts, ideas, anxieties, compulsions, and you relax your body, your mind follows sympathetically, opens up. Those negative, anxious, compulsive, worrisome thoughts just float away, and you have brought yourself into a more expanded state, a state of expansion. And you feel clear, calm, still, open, available, relaxed, at peace. That's what we're trying to achieve. So let's start. Squeeze your hands together. Now you are getting a visceral sensation of what it is to be contracted, one of the two basic processes of the universe. So now you know what it feels like. We've identified what contraction is. Now, contraction can feel great. Strength feels great. That's why we lift weights. It feels good to be strong. So contraction is a good thing. It's the stuff of life. Our only problem, our only challenge is when we become overly contracted. So squeeze really tight, and then you become rigid, immovable, inflexible, closed off, rigid, unchanging. When you're holding a contraction like this, you're typically holding your breath as well, so you become oxygen deprived. You are shut off, closed off, limited. And we tend to feel bad. When you're overly contracted, you feel bad. So there's your challenge. This isn't going well. I feel bad, either emotionally, on some physical level. I'm involved in a situation which isn't going well. So what are my choices? Well, you can contract more, which is our typical response. More contraction, add more contraction, more thoughts, more ideas. Obsession, think, think, think. Worry, worry, worry. Try, try, try. That may or may not get us somewhere, but we can also do the opposite, which is to expand. And how do we do that? Simply decide to do it. 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. So we just moved ourselves, our body, on a physical level into a more expanded state. That's all we're going to do for this entire session. That's all this process involves. It's too simple almost to believe. What are we doing here? You're just telling me to relax? Obviously I need to relax. That's what people say when you say, don't ever tell someone to relax. They get really pissed off. Hey man, you should just relax. I'm relaxed. Because when we're in a contracted position, it feels safe and secure, and it's very threatening to let go of that because we feel like it's our lifeline. We contract even tighter. If someone tells you to relax, let go, it's very threatening. Let go of my safety net, of my lifesaver. But sometimes that's the solution. So we learn how to incrementally release the muscular tension to move our body physically into a state of expansion, which in turn influences our very state of consciousness. So we're going to take a series of incremental expansive steps. Squeeze your hands together tight. That's contraction. Now you know what it feels like. You know, a lot of times when I'm feeling bad and I don't understand why, something's going on, I'll just do this. I'll go, okay, this is me. And I'll look at myself, and I sort of stepped outside myself and I said, this is me. Look at me. I'm contracted. I'm tight. That's me. And it allows me to be objective, to not be so caught up in my own emotions. And I can say, well, that's me. Well, what do I need to do? Well, I obviously need to expand. 3, 2, 1, release. You just made a conscious decision to change your state of being. Drop your hands, take 3 deep breaths. Now sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. Do not move a muscle. Another deep breath. So these are what I call the preliminary steps. We're trying to move ourselves from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. So first thing we do is we identify that we're contracted, and then we indicate to ourselves that we have the power. We always have the power to change our state of consciousness. We may not be able to change our circumstances outside of ourselves, but within ourselves, within our own body, within our own being, you always have the power to expand. 3, 2, 1, release. You just did it. And see how that feels. You've taken the pressure off. You suddenly feel an impulse to breathe, because as you were holding your contraction, you were holding your breath. When one part holds, every part holds. When one part expands, every part expands. The body is subject to the influence of any individual part. If you expand one part of your body, the rest of the body responds. So the first feeling you might have when you let go, when you expand, is you might feel an impulse to take a breath. So we do. We take 3 breaths. Initially. Breaths are by their very physical nature expansive. Your lungs expand. So that's another step towards expansion. So here we go. 3 deep, deep breaths. And then we're going to sit in absolute stillness. Because contraction is an action. Contraction, action. We're always in slight state of movement, decision making. Taking action. When you instruct your body to sit absolutely perfectly still, you're sending a message to your body, we are no longer in action. We have stopped contracting. We have stopped taking action. We're going to change course. First, when you're going this way, if you want to change direction, first you must stop, turn around, and go the other way. So when you sit in absolute stillness and silence, you've stopped. You've indicated to your body that a change is coming. You're going to stop contracting. So you sit in absolute stillness and silence. Silence, because it's very difficult to quiet the mind. But if you stop talking, and if you sit in absolute stillness and silence, words and thoughts or contractions, you've moved towards stopping the contractions, and you can begin to move towards expansion. So silence is another form of slowing down the contractive process. So sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. Begin. You know, if you've ever had to take care of little children, they can be a handful because they're all kinetic energy. They're running around and they're being crazy and stuff like that. And if you've ever taught a class or anything, at some point, sometimes you'll say to the kid, okay, come here, sit down. Okay, now just stop. Stop. Be quiet. Sit still. Take a minute. Time out, we call it sometimes. and you suggest to the child that they do absolutely nothing for 2 minutes and just sit there and be still. And what that does is that breaks the cycle of activity, that breaks the cycle of action, which is contraction. So what we're doing now is breaking the cycle. You get very caught up in contraction. It can become almost reflexive. And when you get contracted, and when you are, by contraction I also mean action, activity, thinking, these are contractions, it can become an obsession. It feels like the only way out. So you contract even harder, you think even harder, you move even more quickly, you obsess, okay? So this stillness and silence is a way of saying stop what you're doing. We're going to change direction now. These are all preliminary steps towards putting a stop to contraction. So let's do it again. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. Already my hands feel better. My muscles are more relaxed, so they're working more effectively. Everything works better when relaxed or expanded. Squeeze your hands tight, that's you. On the count, you're going to release that tension, move yourself, your hands, and thereby yourself, from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. 3, 2, 1, release, and see how that feels. Take 3 deep breaths. Even deeper. 15 seconds of stillness and silence. Continue to breathe, but stillness and silence. Now for me, this initial, or what I call preliminary phase, can be very challenging. Because on a certain level, when I'm stressed, and I'm pretty much always stressed these days because of what's going on, career, pandemic, politics, I pretty much have a low level of stress all day. I tend to tuck away my emotions in a safe place, and I hold them there so I can function, so I can get through the day. You can't be a basket case all day. You got to, get on with your life. You can't be like, oh my God, 24 hours a day. You just can't. So you hold them. So whenever I start this expansion process, this scanning process, looking for pockets of tension and expanding and releasing them, I always feel a little bit disturbed. And that's, in my mind, the best way to describe it, as I feel disturbed. It makes me unhappy. I feel worried. I feel anxious. This expansive process makes me feel anxious, vulnerable. I don't want to move out of my protected, contracted position. It's a place of safety and security. Even if it's not good for me, it feels somehow safe. So when I induce my body to this expansion, it begins sending a message to me that no, you must let go, you must expand, you must open up your soul, your heart, your feelings. It's threatening. So initially I always feel uncomfortable. That's, to me, the surest sign that I should keep going. And that indicates to me how contracted I am without even knowing it. We can be contracted and not even know it. You can be walking around like, hey, I'm fine, okay, I'm fine. And what you're doing is you're holding on. And so someone says to you, that's why we respond sometimes so defensively when someone says relax, because it's, what do you mean relax? Let go of my security blanket, my tension, my contraction. So I always feel a little bit disturbed, a little bit uncomfortable, because I'm pulling myself out of pockets of contraction I wasn't even aware I had. There are these subconscious tension, this subconscious holding. That's really good though. Pulling yourself out of that is the beginning towards a movement towards an expanded consciousness, which is a place of calm, still peace. One more time. This time we're going to take 5 deep breaths and sit for 30 seconds in stillness and silence. But first, squeeze your hands together as we always do. We're going to move from contraction, 3, 2, 1, to expansion. Release, drop your hands. 5 deep, deep breaths. If you get dizzy, that's okay. You're not going to fall. You're sitting in the chair. Here we go. 1, 2, keep expanding. That's 3. Last one, as deep as you can. 30 seconds of stillness and silence. Deep breath. And at this point, I always say, take an assessment of yourself. How have things changed? How do you feel different? I always have the same sort of shift. I go from feeling agitated and in a compulsive state where I need to think, say, do something, to a state of, nah, it's not so important. I don't have to do anything right now. I start to feel comfortable in my own skin. I start to feel at peace just sitting and doing nothing. It's a slight psychological, I don't know how you describe it, but it's a change of consciousness. I suddenly go from feeling I must do, I must do, I must go, I must say, I must think, what am I doing, what's going to happen today, to, it doesn't really matter. I go from a state of nothing's going to be okay to, you know what, everything's going to be fine. I can't explain it. Can't explain it except to say that I have expanded myself. On a very subtle level, I've expanded myself. When you expand your muscles and thereby your consciousness, you're opening yourself up to possibilities. You've been closed off in a held, limited position. As you begin to expand, you open yourself up to possibilities, and you begin to see that the way I was looking at things was a limited view. And as you begin to expand, you begin to say, there's many possibilities. You know, some people might say to you, well, you know what? Relax. Anything's possible. Anything could happen today. Anything's possible. And when you begin to see that there are possibilities out there because you've expanded, you're not so afraid or anxious because you don't have such a limited view. The limited view tells you this is the way it is. This is the way it is. It's not going to change. What am I going to do? The expanded view says, well, there's this, but there's also that, and that, and that, and that. Anything's possible, so I have a feeling it's going to be okay. There's so many possibilities all of a sudden, not just my limited negative view, but positive views. Glass half empty, glass half full. Your perspective changes. You begin to see possibilities in the world when you expand. So that's what we're doing. We're moving ourselves from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. We're becoming permeable. As I always like to say, if this is you and this is life and you're contracted, you can't come together. Life is a continued source of conflict and impact. But if you expand, if you become permeable, then you can merge with life. There's room to move between, around, and through each other, and life becomes less stressful. So now we move into part 2. Those are the preliminary steps: squeeze, release, deep, deep breaths, stillness, and silence. And you can practice those anytime. If you don't have time for anything else, if you have like no time, then just sit for a minute in complete stillness and silence, at minimum. If you have a little more time, take a series of deep breaths, deep breaths followed by stillness and silence. And you can always start every session by going, this is me, 3, 2, 1, I've changed. So those are the preliminary steps. Now we get into what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is the actual muscular release. Again, scanning is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, and by association, emotional and mental calm. By expanding the musculature, the muscles can only contract or release. By expanding the musculature, you literally change your state of consciousness. We work from the body to the mind, not the other way around. It's a physical technique. The beauty of it is you don't have to have a book to read. You don't have to study any, like I say, religious tropes or philosophical tropes. It's strictly a physical technique. Anyone, anywhere in the universe, at any time, at absolutely no cost, can sit down and work on incremental muscular release. It's available to you at all times. And it works. It works. I didn't invent this technique. I stumbled upon it. And as I say, I've continued to conduct this experiment for several years now, and I have not once been disappointed. It always changes my state of consciousness. Sometimes it takes a while longer. Sometimes it's not as effective as others. But if I take the time and start, I always move the dial. As I say, we move from a state of contraction to expansion all day long. We get stuck in a contracted state. No matter how difficult or challenging the situation, if I practice this technique, I move towards expansion. Maybe not all the way, sometimes just 1%, but it makes a difference. So here we go. We're going to expand the muscles of the body. We're going to do it section by section, what I call muscular zones. The first one is the face. So on my count, I want you to release the muscular tension in the face. And when I snap my fingers, I want you to imagine that I have flipped a switch and I've turned the power off to the muscles of the face. We know how to make a fist and release. Same thing in the face and all these other muscular zones. Turning off the muscular tension. 3, 2, 1. Now I use the face to demonstrate because you can see the change. 3, 2, 1. I literally turned off the power to the muscles in my face. And when I did that, I lowered the demand for energy expenditure in my body, because now I don't have to put any energy into those muscles. So by expanding, you literally lower the energy demand. You walk around, most of us walk around with this low level of energy, being expended, holding on, holding. That's a key word. We hold, we hold, we hold. We hold muscular tension that we don't need to hold. So as you turn off the power to this area, you ever have you've been in a situation where maybe it was in the summer like it is now, and everyone's running their air conditioners, and they said, well, don't run all your appliances at once, because then you'll pop the circuit, So you go around turning off appliances. You don't use that one. I don't need that one. I need the air conditioning, so I'm going to keep that on. But I'm going to turn off the other power demands in my house so that I have more power reserved for what I really need. So you have a lot of appliances going. Your body is, let's say, a series of appliances, and you have a lot of appliances going that don't need to be on. So we're going to go around the house turning them off and see how much energy that frees up, so that you are not so tired all the time. You're not so drained. You don't feel so put upon. Sometimes we go around in life feeling as though we're wearing a lead suit and it's just weighing us down. We're just like, oh. A lot of that is your own creation, your own tension that you have built into your system instinctively out of fear, usually. We contract out of fear. So if we can release those muscles, that muscular tension, we will free up so much energy you didn't even know you had. The face, 3, 2, 1, release. And if you feel other parts of your body let go at the same time, let that happen. The body is very sympathetic to itself. If something happens in one part, it wants to join in. So it says, oh, are we relaxing now? Is there a relaxation party going on? Can I come? So if you feel other parts of you relax as you focus on a particular muscle group, let that happen. We're working towards total bodily relaxation. The goal is complete release and relaxation of muscular tension. So the face, 3, 2, 1, release. And note, very important, how that felt. You may not be that familiar with these sensations of release. We don't go around relaxing all day. We go around contracting all day. We conduct our lives through a series of contractions. We make an effort. We say things, we build things, we teach things. We go places. These are contractions. This is the stuff of life. So if you don't know, if it doesn't feel familiar, if it feels weird, how do I relax? It's just because you haven't practiced. And that's why we're here, to practice incremental muscular release. Zone 2, the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. The one part of my body that always reacts in sympathy with any muscular release in any part of my body are the shoulders. I release the muscles in the top of my head. 3, 2, 1, release. I felt my shoulders drop. So let that happen. Take a deep breath. Always take deep breaths. You will feel the impulse to take a breath because you've been so tense, you've been shut off, you've been holding your breath just as you've been holding the muscular tension. Now you're beginning to release, you're beginning to expand, your body is sending you signals. Take a breath, I need it. I've been oxygen deprived. Take those breaths. Another one. Zone 3, the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. And if you slouch, that's good. You're letting go of tension. You're taking total demand off your muscles. You're saying you don't need to do anything. And that includes sitting up straight. Now, it's good to sit up straight, obviously for breathing, for our organs, but sometimes it's good to remind your body that you don't have to do anything. You could take a total break. And if you slouch a little bit, that's fine. You can always sit up straight after. Zone 4, the neck. 3, 2, 1, release. Note how that felt to go from this to this. Study it. It's part of the process. Recognizing it allows you to repeat it. The neck. 3, 2, 1, release. Zone 5 is the shoulders, which have probably already begun to drop. 3, 2, 1, let them drop again. Release. Now you're becoming aware that, oh my God, I had no idea how much tension I was holding. I'm feeling it myself. And I was already feeling relaxed from the preliminary steps, but now that I'm specifically relaxing the muscles, I'm going, wow, I'm just sitting here like holding this tension. I didn't even know I was holding it. It becomes like a go-to position. This is my way of facing life, like this. You just go to it. Because you feel like to release those muscles, to just completely let go of muscular tension, is to leave yourself vulnerable to whatever life is throwing your way. And life is throwing a lot of shit our way these days, so we keep this constant state of preparedness. But you can let that go. You're just sitting in a chair in a room, practicing. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. And again, the thought that keeps going through my mind is, I had no idea. How could I have no idea? I've been practicing this for years. Of course I knew. I know intellectually that I carry tension, but on a physical level, I had just taken a position and felt like I was okay. I had no idea. Zone 6 is the chest down into the stomach and waist. 3, 2, 1. Release. It just shows you the power of our instincts. No matter what we feel we've learned about how good it is to relax, our body will always take us back to contraction as the go-to preliminary step, preliminary solution. It's the body's go-to solution. Tense up. So again, I've been doing this for years. My body still does it. But I'm smarter now because I'm aware of that instinct and I'm learning how to counteract that with expansion through practice. So that's what we're doing here, practicing. The chest down into the stomach and waist, let it go. 3, 2, 1, turn off the power, release. And I slouched a little bit because I felt, oh, that was just kind of holding me up. I was holding is a key word. I was holding. Zone 7 is down the back, and your back is leaning against the chair. So feel your back just ever so slightly sink into the chair. 3, 2, 1, release. And that's what relaxation is. It's a softening, a softening. As opposed to a concrete wall, our bodies have become clay, and then marshmallows, and then strainers, so we can actually go through, move through them. We're becoming permeable. The back, 3, 2, 1, release. Now we're going to add that. We're going to add all these together. We're not quite done, but we're going to add what we've done together. The face, the top of the head, the back of the head, the neck, the shoulders, the chest and stomach, and back. And we're just going to let all those go. 3, 2, 1, release. You know, I'm an actor, and I do a lot of theater. And before I go on stage, everyone has their preparation. And early in my career, I used to just do warm-ups. I would physically I would stretch, I would warm up, I would sing, I would I would just active, you know, and there's something to that. Warming the body up is always effective. But as I get older, what I began to realize is the more effective thing was to become inactive, still, expanded, calm, relaxed. Then when I went on stage, my body was completely available. There were far fewer restrictions. The anxieties had been released, and my body was available to whatever emotions or actions I needed to take. Now, I'm not saying one is a better solution than the other, but I'm just saying as an alternative, as I said at the very beginning of this session, the go-to solution may not be what your instincts tell you, which is to do, to go, to contract, to grab, to hold. Equally of value, and I say equally because there is a time to hold, to grab, to assert, obviously. Of equal value is relax, release, let go. Relax, release, let go, let go. Turn off the power. Go to zero. Go to nothing. Just be. Be available. This is particularly applicable as an actor because tension cuts off feelings and emotions. If you want to be emotionally available, it's best to be relaxed because tension closes off feelings and emotions. Relaxation opens up feelings and emotions, which is one of the reasons sometimes this process can make some people uncomfortable because as they start to relax, they begin to experience emotions which they had so carefully and protectively tucked away, and they don't want to feel those things. But as I always say, emotions are only scary and painful when they're emerging, the birth process of emotions. Once they're out, they feel fantastic, so let them. Zone 7 was the back. Zone 8 is the pelvis. The pelvic region is an area fraught with tension and anxiety for obvious reasons. Just think about it. So on my count, release whatever clenching, holding tension you feel in that area. Small amount. You're not going to lose control. You're not going to, become suddenly aroused or have to go to the bathroom or anything. It's not going to happen. But you are going to discover that you can release tension in that area, and it will benefit you as the release of tension in any other part of your body benefits you. 3, 2, 1, the pelvis. Release. And again, sometimes you'll go, I didn't even know I was holding tension there. I had no idea. 3, 2, 1, the pelvis. Deep breath. Again, the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, release. In any one of these areas, you can spend not just the minute I'm spending on them. I take a half an hour for these sessions. I try to keep them to a half an hour. And we move through them so I can kind of remind you of what they are. But you're going to cycle through them again. But you could, as a session, focus on one area, like the pelvis. And just for 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour, just 3, 2, 1, release, take a breath. Note the change and do it again. You could just focus on one particular muscle group. It will have an equal benefit because, as I said, as you relax one muscle group, the others relax in sympathy. Zone 8 is the legs across the knees and down into the feet. Very important. Zone 9. 3, 2, 1, release. We don't often think about the feet, the tension in our feet. Part of this process is learning how to heighten your awareness of the muscular tension in any particular part of your body so that you can look at your knee and go, I want to relax my knee. 3, 2, 1, release. And you can do it. It's incredible. You can really send your focus and your energy and your sense of awareness to any part of your body. We have an incredible skill within us. It just has to be practiced, that's all. So again, the legs across the knees into the feet. 3, 2, 1, release. Now the whole body, every zone. 3, 2, 1, let it go, release. If you feel resistant, that's an excellent sign that you are holding, and you will benefit all the more from this process. So don't be deterred by a sense of resistance, which can take the form of, this isn't working, I don't get it, I don't feel anything. Those are all statements of resistance. That's fine. I'm resistant every time I do this. Why? Because my body instinctively is trying to hold as a form of protection. Your body wants to protect you. Your body's on your side. It's just trying to protect you. But it's sometimes too smart for its own good. We have a consciousness within us that can step outside of our body and see what it's doing and say, I know better. I know better. So I know you want to hold body. I know you want to contract. I know you want to maintain this position. I know you think it's safe. I know you think it's better for you. Out of fear, you've taken this position and you want to hold it because you feel like it's the only solution. But me, my consciousness, steps out of my body and says, but body, I want you to try something different. Just try it. And the body goes, no. And you say, just try it. Just try it. Can you relax 1%? No. Try it. 3, 2, 1, the whole body, release. The body goes, that was scary, but not so bad. And then you continue. So you're sort of having a conversation with yourself. Again, your better self, your higher self, your consciousness has stepped outside your body and is saying, I know best. This is your higher self. This is why people go to church, why they go to temple, why they go to the mosque. They pray to God because they want inspiration from a higher source. We are a body on earth. We're human beings. We're just reacting out of fear. We do things, and sometimes they're not always the best things, but we just do them because our body tells us to do them. So in an effort to improve ourselves, we've stepped out of ourselves and we've looked to a higher source of inspiration. Some people call it God, some people call it the universe, whatever. But we want to improve. We want to be better so that we can step outside ourselves and say, I know you want to do this, Larry. I know you want to react this way. I know you think it's what's best for you, but a higher consciousness has told me that what's really best for you is to do this. Now, in my case, what I've discovered, what my higher consciousness has taught me, inspired by this book, Thaddeus Skolas's Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, is that even though my instincts, and I'm talking about me now, Larry, are always to contract, to think, to worry, to decide, to take action, to be active, even though that's always going to be my instinct, that's the way I'm designed physically, my higher consciousness has learned that that's not always the best solution. And in fact, what is the better solution is to relax, to expand, to be still, to be quiet, to be calm, to open my mind, to make myself more permeable and available, to breathe, to muscularly expand and release, that this is the better way to go. This is what I've learned. This is why I practice it. I will probably for the rest of my life be at war with myself, my body, my instincts, my genetic design will always want to contract as a solution, but I'm learning to expand as an alternative. It's a challenge, but as you practice, you will get better and better at it. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I do this. And I hope it's of benefit to you. So, little over half an hour. I really try to keep these sessions to a half an hour, so we're going to call it a day. Again, all we're doing is moving ourselves on a basic level from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. That can be 1%, 2%, whatever you can do. Remember, we move from between contraction and expansion. We become overly contracted, and all we want to do is move ourselves towards expansion. If you do it 1%, it's a victory. The main thing is that you get better and better at the practice, and that you heighten your awareness of this process, so that at any given moment in your life, at any time, you can say, where am I at? Where am I at? Oh, I'm contracted. What do I need to do? Expand and take the moment, if nothing else, to sit in stillness and silence. Stop contracting. If you could take deep breaths, take that expansive step. And then if you can begin to work your way through the body on a muscular level, releasing muscular tension, all of these are expansive steps, and do that for as long as you can. If you've got 5 minutes, take 5 minutes. 15, do that. An hour, do that. The idea is to start to make this a part of your life, to bring balance back to your life. Because especially these days, we tend to be in an overly contracted state. We're thinking too much, we're worrying too much, we're physically tense, we're anxious, we have obsessive thoughts and feelings. Get out of that state by moving towards expansion. That's the goal. To bring yourself back to center, to be balanced. And that's it. That's today's session. It's been a good week, in a way. Thanks for joining me. It's called Sqanning, S-Q-A-N-N-I-N-G. It is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, followed by emotional and mental calm. I will post this session, as I always do, on my Facebook page and also on the Sqanning Facebook page. If you want to go there and sign up and like and follow, you'll get alerts when there's a new session, if you like. There's also a YouTube Sqanning Facebook page. I end every session with rule number one. Rule number one, love yourself. This is it. This is what you got. This is what you were given, for better or worse. There's a lot to love. You may feel that there's a lot to not love, but it doesn't matter. You got to love that too, because this is what you were giving. Love is an expansive act. If you want to expand, love. Give yourself love, give others love. It's an expansive act. This is a difficult world. We can't always feel loving, but try. Just try. But start with loving yourself. There's an infinite amount of love available in the universe. You just have to reach for it and give it to yourself. When you have so much that you're literally overflowing with love for yourself, take that extra and pass it around to the rest of us, because we could all use it. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Have a safe weekend. I may be here over the weekend, possibly not. In any case, love yourself, enjoy your day. Best of luck. Great talking with you, and see you later. Bye-bye.